Welcome, Zion Lutheran and friends. We're here for a hymn sing, and we're so happy to be with you. Christmas season is a time to be together, and even when we can't be together, we can come together and sing some hymns together. So we're happy to be with you today. The first hymn we want to sing is First Noel, and in this hymn, the editors noted that a hymn's author is unknown for this hymn, and so this artificial person entry is used to reflect that fact. Obviously, the hymns attributed to author unknown or anonymous could have been written by many people over many spans of centuries. The First Noel. Angels We Have Heard on High is the next hymn we'd like to share with you. It's found in your Lutheran service book, if you have one there, wherever you may be, on page 368. Angels We Have Heard on High is a Christmas carol to the hymn tune Gloria from a traditional French song of unknown origin called Les Anguilles dans nos campagnes, with English lyrics that were translated by James Chadwick. Chadwick's lyrics are derived and inspired and in part a loose translation from the French original. The song's subject is the birth of Jesus Christ as narrated by the Gospel of Luke, specifically the scene in which shepherds outside Bethlehem encounter a multitude of angels singing and praising the newborn child. So why don't you join and sing and praise the newborn child with us. Angels We Have Heard on High.
Oh
O Little Town of Bethlehem. Found in your Lutheran service book on page 366. Philip Brooks was born in Boston in December 13th in 1835. He graduated at Harvard College 1855 and was ordained in 1859. Successfully rector of the Church of the Advent in Philadelphia and Trinity Church in Boston, he became Bishop of Massachusetts in 1891 and died at Boston in January of 1893. His carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem, was written for his Sunday school in 1868, the author having spent Christmas 1868 at Bethlehem. O Little Town of Bethlehem, we sing together. Oh, 361 in your Lutheran service book, sorry. Just that note again, that Little Town of Bethlehem is found in your Lutheran service book 361. Now we're going to sing It Came Upon a Midnight, clear. That's in your Lutheran service book 366, the one that I said last time. Edmund Hamilton Sears was born in Berkshire, Massachusetts in 1810. He graduated at Union College in 1843 and at the Theological School of Harvard University in 1837. He became pastor of the Unitarian Society in Wayland, Massachusetts in 1838. On account of ill health, was obliged to retire from the active duties of the ministry in 1847. Residing in Wayland, he devoted himself to literature. He has published this hymn in 1849. He died at Weston, January 14th, 1876. It came upon a midnight clear. with us singing today is Emily and Marianne and Rachel and Tammy and Terry and John and Greg and Hal. And I'm Pastor Greg. And we have Maxine. She's up on the organ way up top in the choir loft. So hi, Maxine, up there in the choir loft. Thanks for pulling all this together. We really appreciate it. So if you have a chance and you talk to Maxine on the phone, if you're singing with us, thank her for pulling all of this together. And thank you, volunteers, for coming together and sing as well. The next song we want to share is What Child Is This? It's found in your Lutheran service book on page 370. Most British hymn writers in the 19th century were clergymen. But William Dix, who wrote this hymn, was a notable exception. Trained in the business world, he became the manager of a marine insurance company in Scotland. Dix published various volumes of his hymns, such as Hymns of Love and Joy in 1861 and Altar Songs, Verses on the Holy Eucharist in 1867. A number of his texts were first published in Hymns Ancient and Modern in 1861. We'll sing together, What Child Is This?
To
O Come All Ye Faithful is the next hymn we'd like to share with you. That's found in your Lutheran Service Book, page 379. John Francis Wade wrote this hymn. The earliest manuscript signed by Wade is dated about 1743. A Roman Catholic, Wade apparently moved to France because of discrimination against Roman Catholics in 18th century England, especially so after the Jacobite rebellion in 1745. He taught music at an English college in France and hand-copied and sold chant music for use in the chapels of wealthy families. Wade's copied manuscripts were published in 1751. He was born in England in 1711. He died in France in 1786. O come all ye faithful. Silent night. What a night, that silent night in Bethlehem. 363 in your Lutheran Service Book. I'm going there right now. Joseph Moore, born in 1792. He died in 1848. He was born into a humble family. His mother was a seamstress and his father an army musketeer. A choir boy in Salzburg Cathedral as a youth, Moore studied at Salzburg University and was ordained in the Roman Catholic Church in 1815. He was a priest in various churches near Salzburg, including St. Nicholas Church. He spent his last year in Hintersee and Wagreen. Silent night.
All is gone.
who's going to sing the rest of the verses? The German part. Still Nacht, heilig Nacht. We're not, okay. We'll move on. Away in a Manger, Lutheran Service Book 364. Martin Luther is accounted for this hymn, Away in a Manger. Little background on Martin Luther. He was born November 10th, 1843. He died in 1546 on February 18th. He was a priest, ordained in 1507, appointed professor at the University of Wittenberg in 1508, published his 95 thesis in 1517, and burnt the papal bull which had condemned them in 1520. He attended the Diet of Worms in 1521. He translated the Bible into German between 1521 and 1534. The details of his life and his work as a reformer are accessible to English readers in a variety of forms. Luther had a huge influence on German hymnody, and here is one, Away in a Manger. Go tell it on the mountain. We're moving along pretty quick here, aren't we all? Moving right along. No retakes so far, right? This could be the one, though. Lutheran Service Book 388, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Let me find that, and then I'll give you some information. John W. Wark Jr. is well known for his pioneering studies of African American folk music and for his leadership in the performance of spirituals. He studied music at Fisk University in Nashville, studied classics at Harvard, and then taught Latin, Greek, and history at Fisk from 1898 to 1923. Director of the Jubilee Singers at Fisk. Wark also sang tenor in the Fisk Jubilee Quartet, which toured the country after 1909 and made commercial recordings. He was president of Roger Williams University in Nashville during the last 2 years of his life. Wark and his brother Frederick were devoted to collecting, arranging, and publishing African American slave songs and spirituals. They published 2 collections, New Jubilee songs as sung by the Fisk Jubilee Singers in 1901, and Folk Songs of the American Negro in 1907. We'll sing together.
Go tell it on the mountain.
Please hold down the applause, everyone. Hold down the applause. Hark the Herald Angels is what we'd like to sing with you next, found in your Lutheran service book on page 380. Charles Wesley was born in Epworth, December 18th, 1707. He was educated at Westminster School and afterwards at Christ Church, Oxford, where he graduated with an M.A. In 1735, he took orders and immediately preceded his brother John to Georgia, both being employed as missionaries. He returned to England in 1736. For many years, he engaged with his brother in preaching the gospel. He died March 29, 1788. Charles Wesley's prominence in hymn writing may be judged from the fact that in the Wesleyan hymn book, 623 of the 770 hymns were written by him, and he published more than 30 poetical books written either by himself alone or in conjunction with his brother. The number of his separate hymns is at least 5,000. Hark the Herald Angels. Angels from the Realms, Lutheran Service Book 367. James Montgomery, the son of Moravian parents who died on a West Indies mission field while he was in boarding school, Montgomery inherited a strong religious bent, a passion for missions, and an independent mind. He was editor of the Sheffield Iris, a newspaper that sometimes espoused radical causes. Montgomery was in prison briefly when he printed a song that celebrated the fall of the Bastille, and again when he described a riot in Sheffield that resulted unfavorably on a military commander. He also protested against slavery, a lot of boy chimney sweeps and lotteries. Associated with Christians of various persuasions, Montgomery supported missions in the British Bible Society. He published 11 volumes of poetry, mainly his own, and at least 400 hymns. Some critics judge his hymn text to be equal in quality with those of Isaac Watts and Charles Wesley. Many were published in Thomas Ketterlill's Selection of Psalms and Hymns in 1819, and in Montgomery's own Songs of Zion in 1822, Christian Psalmists 1825, and Original Hymns 1853. Angels from the Realms of Glory. Can you believe it's our last one already? Joy to the World. Lutheran Service Book 387. Mary Ann, do I have that right this time? Thank you very much. 387. Just checking. 387. Joy to the World. Isaac Watts was born in Southampton, July 17th, 1674. He is said to have known remarkable abilities in childhood, beginning with the study of Latin in his 4th year, writing respectable verses at the age of 7. The number of Watts' publications are very large. His collected works, first published in 1720, embrace sermons, treatises, poems, and hymns. His hymns appeared in July 1707. The first hymn he said to have composed for religious worship is "Behold the Glories of the Lamb," written at the age of 20. It's as a writer of psalms and hymns that he is everywhere known. Some of his hymns were written to be sung after his sermons, giving expression to the meaning of the text upon which he had preached. Joy to the World was written in 1719. His published hymns number more than 800. Isaac Watts died November 25th, 1748. We'll sing Joy to the World. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our hymn sing. I hope you enjoy singing along this Advent and Christmas season, and it is a blessing to you. God bless, and we'll sing with you soon. Bye now.